It's today's review, and I am your host, Ray Osazwa. We've got interesting issues to deal with this morning, and I have my guests, usual guests, in the studio with me. But before I introduce them, we would see our feature story segment. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Welcome back. It's today's review, and I've got Justina.
Hello, Ray.
Hi, and I've got Fiona.
Hello, Ray.
Welcome, both of you. You ready?
Yes, we are.
Okay, today we're going to start the program with something very dear to our hearts. By the way, girls, did you know that globally there are at least 62 million girls not in school?
The figure is appalling. I mean, it's unbelievable. You can't imagine that 62 million girls are not receiving an education right now as we speak in this developing world of ours. I mean, it's just shows us how unfair the world is, and if people like us in the developing world don't do anything about it, when you
say people like us in the developing world, it's a global issue. It's not an issue that's got to do with only Africa or the third world. Right here in the Western world, there are loads, millions of girls not in education as well. So it's, you know, from what you said, you sort of gave the impression that it's a problem that's probably not affecting the Western world.
No, it's definitely a global issue. 62 million girls all over the world. So people who have the voices to speak out, like us, should be able to do that for the people who don't have the voices to be heard.
Okay, as a girl grows older, the fight to get an education becomes harder. In depraved households and communities, a family must be willing to prioritize paying a school fees or sending her brother instead to school. She risks long unsafe walks to school. In many cases, she's forced to marry before she's even, sometimes before she reaches puberty. And generally, she lacks access to health care. That's the plight of many young girls all around the world today. And that's why this morning we are joining the rest of the world, the United Nations, the USAID, Michelle Obama, Barack Obama, and everyone who's got a heart for a girl child to say, let girls learn. We're going to watch a short clip, and when we come back, we'll talk a bit more about the plight of many young girls, not just in Africa, not in Asia, but everywhere around the world.
I come from Matali. I drive from school because I will not get no supporter. My mom not living, and my partner here to send me to school.
62 million girls around the world who should be in school are not. That's not by accident. It's the direct result of barriers, large and small, that stand in the way of girls who want to learn.
We often focus on the economic barriers girls face, school fees or uniforms, or how they live miles from the nearest school and have no safe transportation. It's also about attitudes and beliefs. It's about whether societies cling to laws and traditions that oppress women.
We know that when girls are educated, they're more likely to delay marriage. Their future children, as a consequence, are more likely to be healthy, Their future wages increase, which in turn strengthens the security of their family. And national growth gets a boost as well.
And that is why the United States government recently launched a new global girls' education effort called Let Girls Learn. As part of this initiative, U.S. Peace Corps volunteers will work side by side with local leaders, families, and girls themselves to help girls go to school and stay in school. They'll be creating mentoring programs, girls' leadership camps, and so much more.
Girl empowerment is for a girl to be able to have the self-esteem and really the confidence to be able to feel like they can do anything they put their mind to.
I won't go to school again to achieve something in my life.
Every child is precious, every girl is precious. Every girl deserves an education. Let girls learn.
Justina, back to, you know, the figures, 62 million girls around the world, no education. Shocking.
Well, it is shocking, and a lot has to do with, you know, these barriers that Michelle Obama was referencing. They're these man-made barriers. You know, they'll reference religion or, you know, whatever reasons as to keeping the woman down, basically, and not letting her have a voice, have an education. And even with the girl that got shot in the head, Malala, it's actually going to be Malala Day, the 10th of November, and you know, she, in as young as she is, she's a trailblazer and trying to make sure that there are no barriers and that females do get an education. And people like Michelle Obama or anybody with a global voice needs to help push these governments so that they start creating this change, and not only changing for the future, but giving people a second chance that have missed out because, you know, just because of whatever the age they might be. But the government really needs to start pushing this agenda.
Michelle Obama recently, as we speak, she's in Qatar, and she's been quoted to say that outdated laws and traditions have robbed girls of education. Now, the report says that Michelle Obama has made an impassioned speech in Qatar calling for an end to outdated laws and traditions, preventing millions of girls around the world from completing their education. Now, the First Lady, she's been in the she's going to undertake a 7-day trip in the Middle East. But yesterday she met with top leaders in Qatar to discuss the plight of the girl child not getting the education that she deserves. Just before we came back from watching the clip now, you were talking about the fact that you know, there's a law in Saudi Arabia that clearly deprioritizes the girl child education.
Yes, because they don't consider the girl child education as a priority. I mean, statistics shows that at least 1 in 7 girls are married off before they're 15. Yes, so this means that the society doesn't consider and value the relevance of a girl's mind and how much it can be developed through education, and that needs to change.
And that's one thing you cannot, you know, that can never be overemphasized, the role that education plays in the life of anybody. It can take you from here to there.
And even Michelle Obama was saying, because she grew up in Chicago, didn't she? And through her education got her into the best universities that, you know, were available. And even when she was growing up, they would say to her, you know, some people would say, like, speak softly, don't, you know, don't have an opinion on things, and just sort of just be, but not be independent.
Be seen, don't be heard.
Yeah. And so, you know, that wasn't that long ago, you know, and so this is a generational thing that will hopefully, in a few generations to come, will no longer be as much of an issue.
We're going to watch the clip, a short clip by Michelle Obama while she addressed leaders in the Middle East in Qatar.
That's what I want to talk with you about today, especially as it relates to a topic that I care deeply about, and that is girls' education around the world. Now, you all are familiar with the statistics. How right now 62 million girls worldwide are not in school. And while every developing region in the world has achieved or is close to achieving gender parity in primary education, when it comes to secondary education, girls still lag far behind. And when girls do attend secondary school, they often do so at great risk. And even when girls do manage to finish secondary school, even university, in many countries they graduate only to find that there's no place for them in the workforce. When we truly start to value their minds and respect their bodies and give them the education they need to fulfill their potential, that doesn't just transform their lives. It transforms their families and their countries too. If we truly want to empower girls to learn, then we need to ensure that their bodies are a source of pride, not pain or shame. If we do, I am confident that we can give all of our children, boys and girls, kids from every background, a future worthy of their talents and their dreams. Thank you all so much.
Very inspiring indeed. We would like to see even more leaders, people in power, take up such initiatives, ensuring that every girl child gets at least a basic, level of education.
I think everyone in society deserves the opportunity and the freedom
Truly,
for
male
education.
or female, everyone deserves that opportunity.
And I think that society is missing out on 50% of its development if the girl child is not involved.
Very true.
Because a woman and the female has more to explore. We will take care of healthcare. There's so many contributions that she can make to society. And if we don't allow her to explore that, then the society and the world is losing out on that.
Very true. I hope the world is hearing. Very true statement there. We're moving on to something else, something even at the moment much more concerning for us. We sit down and we're thinking, sometimes in the comfort of our homes, we are cold. How much less? One who's got no shelter, no roof, no proper clothing over them now that it's winter. We're looking at the next issue we're looking at is winter is coming, the issue, the new crisis for refugees in Europe. Now, record numbers of migrants and refugees crossed the Mediterranean to Europe in October, just in time for the advent of winter, which is already threatening to expose thousands to harsh conditions. The latest UN figures, as I can see in this report, shows that about 218,000 people made the journey, the cross, through the Mediterranean just last month. And like we all know, we've had over 700,000 estimated refugees, in the last couple of months, cross over from Germany to, Greece, Turkey, and other parts of Europe. But our concern this morning is the winter, the cold is here. And the refugee crisis all over Europe is still not resolved. There's still hundreds of thousands of mothers and children and young, men and women out there with no shelter. How does the world deal with this sort of crisis?
This is something, I mean, it's been in the news a lot lately, and every country has a responsibility. I mean, if every country wasn't helping, you know, the citizens of Syria so that they didn't have to flee, if they actually were safe in their own country, then they wouldn't have to be fleeing. And so, you know, they're in a really, they're basically left with whatever they could carry in their bag, and have been taking this,
which is practically
threat.
nothing. They have no clothing even on them.
And you know, all of us, you know, we get our winter coats, we get our winter boots, and sort of prepare. There's really no issues with heating, but they don't know where they're going to be from one day to the next. And every country really has a responsibility to help these people with blankets, food, shelter, and really try and, I mean, the situation's not going to go away. They're not just going to disappear in a country. Everybody needs to help. Everybody has a contribution.
Let's watch this clip, and when we come back, you know, the question on my mind, how are we going to resolve this issue? Sometimes it's the burden is so much in my heart. I'm wondering, because I know what it feels like. Sometimes just from running from the car into the office, this is just the beginning of November. By December, it's going to get a whole lot colder. I have my jackets on, I still get cold. How much less a child who's got flip-flops? That's all they've got. We'll watch the clip and we'll come back, we'll talk a bit more about winter coming and refugees having nowhere to lay their heads still.
They've left everything behind, their homes, friends, and even loved ones. But now they hope the worst is over. Many here traveled for weeks to reach this reception center in the Austrian town of Nikolsdorf, where they still face difficult conditions. The weather is, of course, a challenge. It's getting colder and it's going to rain. So this is a real challenge for the soldiers. As nighttime temperatures drop into the single digits, migrants and refugees are rushing to reach the more affluent countries in the EU. Hungary has been transporting thousands by train to the country's western border town of Hegyeshalom. From there, they have to walk several kilometers to cross the Austrian border to Nikolsdorf. But others still have a longer journey ahead of them. The Croatian town of Strošinca has become another migration hotspot for people coming from Serbia. Many only have summer clothing and footwear.
And here people, they don't have food. Our food is finished, our water is finished. And you know, as you see, there's a lot of ladies and a lot of baby here. Yeah, so what we can do, I don't know why they do like this for us. But I hope everything is going to be all right today.
Despite the harsh conditions along the way, the migrants are still holding on to their dreams of starting a new and better life in the European Union. But as winter approaches, those now fleeing war and poverty know that they face a race against time.
Those of you who know Game of Thrones will know the expression, winter is coming. It is meant quite literally, and it is meant metaphorically. I think this expression can be applied to the situation the European Union is now vis-à-vis the refugees. Winter is coming, quite literally. But winter might also be coming metaphorically for the European Union if we are incapable of action in the next couple of days and weeks.
Quickly, Fiona, what can be done? You know, because there's no point talking about something when you can't provide answers or solutions to it. What can we do?
I think this is the time and this is the opportunity has come up now for a need. You know, there's a new situation on ground now. This winter has come. It was easy for the migrants to travel in during the summer, but the question now is, this is the government should allow and provide like an open space and opportunity for charities, for organizations that are willing to help and provide more clothing, especially warm clothing for the winter, and food for the winter, and sufficient heated shelter for this winter.
When you say the government, in the first place, this is supposed to be shared responsibility for the whole of Europe, and the world alike. So when you say the government, I don't know what you mean, because there are countries in Europe who have actually outdone themselves, in trying to help with this situation.
Now, obviously, the government is the one that brings in the refugees and shelters them, but Justina was just saying whilst we were on the break that they have the system where they have to vet the charity and the organizations that are coming in to provide food, clothing, and shelter for the refugees. So yes, they're still in charge, but they need to create an avenue where people who are willing to help have the opportunity to do so freely and willingly.
For example, in the UK, we took a story a couple of weeks ago where, the Christian community approached the government of this country to say, we are willing to open our doors. But up till now, we're really not sure what the government of the United Kingdom have done in that regard, because we still don't know if any refugees in the first place have been allowed into the United Kingdom.
Well, it's all very closed off, isn't it? I mean, you don't know exactly, if David Cameron says actually some have come in, well, where are they? Because it doesn't appear that way. And I think there was an argument where he said that, the government was already spending a lot of money. And the only thing there was that massive wall that they built in France, and that's not the answer. It's like, instead of spending £6 million on a wall, build a community where we can help. And these refugees wouldn't necessarily just be a burden. They could contribute to society. They would then open up their own businesses, their own shops where they could buy the food that they would normally have, and all of this starts to help the economy. And this isn't, I feel like everybody just looks at it in a way where it's just going to be a burden, it's just going to be a drain, they're going to use our health care, and we need to turn around our thinking.
So there has to be a change of the way people are reasoning and seeing the refugee situation, because they can be, like you said, they can boost an economy as well, because they would work, they're not just going to be sitting down and waiting for the government to give them food.
And all they need is a place to nest, all they need is to know that they're going to be able to stay somewhere. And I mean, there's children that are going to have hypothermia. People will die, and it's like
pneumonia.
Pneumonia. I mean, look how much it rains around here. I mean, just to get a chill could be so easy, and it really. Like you said, like the Christian community would open their doors, and we need to start the government needs to start letting the people of the country help.
There has to be a channel, like, we can pull resources together and do the much that we can. But if we don't have that channel to reach out to the refugees, then it's all in vain. So that's why I said that we need to be giving that opportunity as a charity, as independent organizations willing to help, the opportunity to reach out to the refugees in this trying time. It's a crisis, and we need to come to the rescue of it.
Well, and the flip side of that, just really quickly, is there are people with good hearts that are willing to help, but then there's also people that are just completely the opposite, basically, where they'll be looking to take advantage of these people in these desperate situations. And so they need to find sort of a delicate balance, because there are people that will open up their homes, and then there are other people that will, sell your kid into a different, into
child trafficking and sex trafficking and human trafficking. We know that this situation, the possibilities of it arising is there, but we're trying to contain it and make sure that the real thing is dealt with, you know, protecting these refugees and giving them the safety and the help, the security that they need.
Okay, thank you. Something else we really wanted to talk about today, I don't know if we've got time to even look into it, but I guess we could introduce it, and next week we would look at it in depth. We have heard, I have heard, I'm sure you have heard, of child abuse and how children are damaged by this terrible behavior. And you know, if you Google child abuse, you'll find pages and pages of information about the term child abuse. You find support groups, you find advice on the subject, but you know, how many people have really heard of the word parent abuse? You know, when you said we were going to talk about parent abuse, I actually Googled it, and I didn't find much, you know, except, you know, the few, you know, support sites. So for me, I just thought it's a growing problem for parents who share their homes with abusive young people, and there is virtually no support. That is why today we're looking, you know, to bring an awareness to this very difficult topic, you know, titled When Children Abuse Parents. Now, Justina, quickly, I just need to clarify to our viewers, what is parent abuse?
Well, parent abuse is a form of domestic abuse that can result in physical harm, emotional distress, damage to property, depression. I mean, it is, it's also referred to as child-to-parent violence as well. And it's often perpetrated by a teenager in the household or a child, you know. And there have been cases actually where it's happened with children really young, you know, as young as 6. And so it's really good that we're introducing this topic, because there's so much protection for children, but there's virtually no resources and no protection for parents.
Okay, we've actually run out of time, but I'm glad that we were able to introduce this topic today. Next week, we'll pay a lot of attention to parent abuse, but that's all we can take today. Thank you so much, Justina. Thank you, Fiona, for being here.
It was great
Until
to be here.
Same time next week, it's goodbye from all of us, and we are saying do have a great weekend. It's getting colder. Don't forget to have your jackets on. Stay warm. We don't need anybody falling sick right now. So from all of us, it's goodbye and have a lovely weekend.